Hi students, and welcome to today's live IELTS class. My name is Adrian. I'm streaming to you from beautiful Victoria here in Western Canada. And in this IELTS class, students, we are looking at a Task 1 writing for the academic IELTS. Specifically, we will be looking at a pie chart on books. Now, this is a members chat class, so to join the chat in this session, you need to be a member. You can become a member of the channel by clicking the join button next to the subscribe button. Welcome to our new member, Nancy. That's great. Send me an email, Nancy, so I can hook you up with those exclusive videos. Welcome, Carolina, our chat moderator. This lesson, everyone, is brought to you by aehelp.com for academic IELTS. Visit us there. And for general IELTS, and to learn about the general IELTS Task 1 writing, which is different from the academic, visit us at gieltshelp.com. Those are the websites that we use often in these live classes. They're basically like our textbooks for these classes. So very good to get access to our premium IELTS course. This is our academic IELTS website here with the blue background. Click this big red button that's just above my head there to join our premium IELTS package. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access. We are an official IDP and British Council partner. We're an IELTS test registration center, certified British Council agents, so you are in very good hands with us. For the general IELTS, visit us at gieltshelp.com. It's got this green background, and you can click that big red button there. Also, when you join, you can use this discount code that we just released with our latest video on the YouTube channel. It's Target9, so TARGET 9. That will get you a 20% discount. And again, it's just a one-time payment. So well worth it. It's got all of the listening materials, videos, practice exams, interactive courses, app for your phone that we use and that assist these live classes. So definitely check those out and get our apps. The apps are Academic IELTS Help and General IELTS Help from your app store. Follow us on Instagram, IELTS_AHelp, GIELTS Help. And if you still have questions, send me your questions to my email. My email is adrian@aehelp.com. Welcome, Amra. So people are joining in now. That's good to see. We're going to get going on our Task 1 writing here in just a moment. The schedule after this class, we will have a short break, 30 minutes, and then we will have listening, and that will be an exciting class. We have some new features for you in that class, and then tomorrow we will have speaking part 2 and speaking part 3. And again, we just released a new video on our YouTube channel, on this channel, so make sure to check that out. Subscribe to this channel, hit the bell button, the notification button, so you know when all of these live classes are happening. I'm just putting the new video link into the chat there, so when you have a second, that's a speaking video, it's a practice video. It's really good for your learning, so check out that latest video release when you have a moment. Okay, IELTS Task 1 writing. So for some of you in India who are doing the IDP exam, this will be the very first task these days, as the writing section in India for many people has become the first section of the IELTS exam. If you are in other parts of the world, then the writing Task 1 will be one of the last parts of your sitting exam. In either case, when you are doing Task 1, you need to take a deep breath, refocus, slow yourself down, especially if you just finished the reading section. So if you just finished reading and your brain is going a mile a minute, you need to take a deep breath and you need to slow down. You need to really pay attention to the question to make sure that you understand it clearly, you know what you're doing. Welcome Harpreet, Sanjay. Nice to see more of you joining in. So our very first step, everybody, step 1 is, of course, read the question carefully. Okay. So let's do that right now. Let's just read this question together. Read with me. Don't just listen to me. Read with me. So IELTS Task 1, writing, you should spend about 20 minutes on this task. The following charts show the percentages of 5 categories of books sold in 3 time periods by a bookshop. Report the main features and make comparisons where relevant. Write at least 150 words. Awesome. Well, let's take a look at this. What does it look like? Oh, boom, there it is. Okay, there is my pie chart. Cool. So this is what we will be looking at. This is what we will be analyzing, comparing, concluding. We've got 20 minutes to do it, but in this class we'll spend a little bit longer with explanations and examples. So let's first of all go through what task 1 is. Okay, so task 1 in the academic exam, it has basically 4 sections. Okay, it has an introduction, it has an overview, it has analyses, and it has kind of a summary, and I'll show you what I mean by that. Okay, so here we go. All right, what is the introduction? Members, so in the introduction, what do you need to include for task 1? What do you think? What does the introduction include? And task 1, it shouldn't be too difficult in the sense that it's like a kind of a given recipe as long as you know what you're doing. You use the vocabulary that you have and you just kind of put it all together. It's like first add water, then add some flour, mix the two together. So yeah, so Amra says that for the introduction, you want to paraphrase the question while giving some details. Using the charts. Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So here, we can do that right now before we talk about the overview and the analysis. So we can do that right now. And members, do this with me so I can take a look at your writing and give you a bit of feedback on your grammar, spelling, accuracy, composition. So, and even maybe give you an estimate of the band score. So, Sanjay, it really depends on the question. So whether or not you're writing 2 body paragraphs, Sanjay, depends on the question. Like for this example that we're doing today, 1 body paragraph is enough. We have 3 pie charts, but if we had like a table and pie charts, those are often situations where you have 2 body paragraphs because you have one for one type of graph and then another for another type of graph. So you really have to pay attention to the question, Sanjay, for deciding to write 1 or 2 body paragraphs, okay? All right, so the following charts, these 3 pie charts, okay? So I don't say following charts or I don't say charts below, okay? This is just a tip. Don't refer to the location of the graph on the piece of paper, okay? This is kind of a do not tip. So do not refer to the location of the graph on the paper. That's awkward. Okay. I see students do that sometimes, and it's strange. It's unnecessary. First of all, I mean, why would I, why would you tell me the graph's below? Yeah, I see it, right? They're below. So instead of doing that, refer to them specifically. So there's, 1, 2, 3 pie charts, right? They're not just charts, they're pie charts. And that's important. Okay. So there's 3 pie charts. So let's refer to them as these 3 pie charts. Show the percentages of 5 categories of books. Okay. Illustrate instead of show. The percentages, let's keep the percentages of 5 categories of 5, instead of categories, I can use the word genres. Okay, genre is a category, and it's maybe even better than category. 5 genres of books, including, why not? Let's name the type of books that we're looking at here. So let's take a look. So we've got adult fiction, we've got children's fiction, we've got biography, we've got travel, and then we've got other. Okay, so let's indicate those: adult, children, biography, travel, other. Including adult and child fiction, travel, biography, and other. Okay, sold in, and then here it says 3 time periods. Okay, so 3 time periods by a bookshop. Okay, sure. Let's check what those time periods are, and let's check what that bookshop might be called if it has a name. If not, we'll just refer to it as a bookshop. So do we see the bookshop? No, we don't. But we do see the years. 1972, 1992, 2012. Okay, so I can also see that the difference in these time periods is 20 years. Okay, so I'm always paying attention to these little pieces here. So we've got 20-year difference here from 1972 to 2012. Okay. So, and others sold in 1972, 1992, and 2012. Okay. So these 3 pie charts illustrate the percentages of 5 genres of books, including adult and child fiction, travel, biography, and other, sold in 1972, 1992, and 2012, in 2-decade intervals. This is a nice piece to write here, the 2-decade intervals, because we're telling the reader that we recognize there's 20 years between these. Okay, so if you think about it, then it's a decade. Decade is 10 years. Decade intervals, spaced 10 years apart. Okay, that's what that means. So pay attention to this new vocabulary throughout the lesson. So whenever I give you new words, new phrases, make sure to pay attention to that. Okay, so this is basically my introduction here. Okay, so I've got my introductory paragraph. I'm just going to grab that. And then I'm just going to stick that right under my pie chart here. There we go. And then let's review it. So these three pie charts illustrate the percentages of 5 genres of books, including adult and child fiction, travel, biography, and other, sold in 1972, 1992, and 2012 in 2-decade intervals. Yeah, I think with 2-decade intervals is a bit better. Okay, so it's good at 2-decade intervals. All right, let's have Grammarly help us a little bit. Sure. At 2-decade intervals. So that looks good. I've got more detail, more clarity for my reader, and that is a good introduction. Now in the IELTS, they want that as a separate piece. Let's see what some of you have. So Nancy, really nice. You're getting right in there, contributing your thoughts. It's fantastic. Let me just copy that here, and then we'll take a look at what you have written. All right. Now, students, I know, you're typing into a chat, and, we do a lot of texting every day, but really focus on using, especially when you're practicing English, accurate capitalization, accurate use of punctuation. So, Nancy, let's start with a capital T here, okay? The 3 pie charts illustrate the sales of 5 different genres of books by a bookstore in the year 1972, 1992, 2012, each with a gap of 2 decades. Okay, that's good. Yeah, so the big difference, of course, is you did not list the 5 genres, but that's fine because you're going to write about those anyway, so it's not absolutely necessary. So it's good. Okay, and you do have the word bookstore in there. I might need to include that. So these 3 pie charts illustrate, okay, in a bookstore, in some bookstore. Yeah, let's add that in. See, we can learn from each other, okay? All right. Good. Let's take a look at what Amra has written. Okay, Amra. The 3 given pie charts depict the sale of various genres: adult fiction, travel, children's fiction, biography, and others in percentages by a bookseller in 3 time periods: 1972, 1992, and 2012. Good. Just one small suggestion, Amra. When you have adult fiction, children's fiction, you can combine those like I did, so you don't have to repeat words. Try to be concise, so you can do it like this. So you can go adult and child fiction, travel, biography, and others in percentages by a bookseller. And then that way we're being concise. You always want to practice being concise, okay? All right. Sanjay. Sanjay writes, the 3 pie charts indicate, because it's plural, okay, not indicates. Careful with those S's on your verbs when you're dealing with plurals. So the 3 pie charts indicate the changes and differences. We don't need the differences. It's a repetition of changes. The changes associated with the proportion of 5 book types. It's not 5 books, it's 5 book types. Namely biography, and these don't need to be capital, they're just common nouns. Travel, children's and adult fiction, and others over the course of 4 decades. It's not actually 4 decades, and it's not over the course of 4 decades. I'm going to emphasize and highlight this for everyone right now. I wanted to talk about this anyway. So this is one of the biggest mistakes. It's one of the most it's actually the most common mistake. So this is a warning. The most common mistake when candidates write about pie charts is they confuse them with line graphs. What's the difference? So let's emphasize that for all of our viewers, because it is one of the most common mistakes. It's a pretty big mistake. You'll lose a band score right away, if not more, if not a couple band scores for this. So it's a band score warning here, band score warning. What is the difference between a line chart and a pie chart? They're definitely not the same. So, Sanjay, very important for you to learn this, because I can see you made this mistake right away in your introduction. So what's the main difference between a pie chart and a line graph? Can you tell me that? Very important to know this. Okay. What is it? I mean, they look different, obviously, right? When you have a line chart, then you're looking at something that looks like this. And when you're looking at a pie chart, you're looking at something that looks like that. Okay, so they definitely look very, very different. Okay. Besides the look, not the look of them, but there's obviously a reason why they look so different, right? Okay, and it's a very important difference. If you're dealing with business statistics, you must know this. On the IELTS, it will cost you a couple band scores. In university, you will actually fail the assignment if you make this mistake. Now you're probably like, ooh, what? Yeah, and in business, people are going to be looking at you like, did you go to math class? My good man, my good woman. All right, well, let me tell you this if you don't know it, okay? So the big difference is line graphs show continuity over time, but pie charts, let's do it this way, pie charts only show data for a specific period of time. Okay, so it's very, very different. Okay, yeah, exactly. Nancy got it. So Nancy put it up there at the same time that I did. So Nancy said, yeah, okay, line graphs show continuity over time, but pie charts only show data for a specific period or point in time, right? Okay. So you have to remember that difference. And what does that mean, right? So what does this mean when you're writing? This means, well, it means a lot, right? It means that you can talk about line graphs as a continuous concept, and pie charts as a specific point in time. So this means that with pie charts, or let's start with line graphs. With line graphs, you can use a continuous form of verbs, as well as using between. But you cannot do this with pie charts because you don't know that information. And it can be dangerous, especially in the real world, to try to guess that information. Okay? All right. So let me show you what I mean by this specifically, right? So here we have our 3 pie charts for this session. We don't know what happened between 1972 and 1992. There's 20 years there. Maybe in this time period, so here in 1972, adult fiction's 20% of sales. In 1992, adult fiction is 25% of sales, and some students say, oh, it was increasing. We don't know that. Maybe in let me do a little bit of a smaller thing here. So maybe in 1980, the adult fiction was only 10%. Maybe there weren't a lot of very good books in adult fiction during 1980. So it might have fluctuated between 1980. We don't know that. We don't have that data. Okay. Just like we don't have the data between 1992 and 2012. So in the real world, like in a business meeting, for example, it would be very strange to say that, oh, it increased. We don't know, okay? So you can only say, or sorry, it was increasing. You can't use the continuous. You can't say it was increasing. You can say it increased, so you can use the simple past because it definitely increased in 1992 compared to 1972, but you can't say it was increasing, okay? So let me make this clear by giving you this example sentence. So in this example, okay, for these pie charts, it is wrong to state adult fiction book sales were increasing between 1972 and 1992. It is right to state in 1992, adult fiction books increased by 5% compared to 1972. Okay, so does that make sense, students? It's a very, very important difference. And this could easily be the difference of one band score in your writing section, understanding the reasons that you use certain types of graphs, okay, or certain types of charts. In our full course on our website, okay, so when you go to our website, aehelp.com, you log into your My Student account, you go to your full online academic course, you go to the writing section, you go to part 1, and then in part 1 you go to the 6 types of charts, so bar charts, line graphs, pie charts, diagrams, and so on. We basically explain to you very clearly the reason that each of these are used, right? So here you can see bar graphs are used to show comparisons and contrasts between nominal data on interval scales, right? So you get some useful vocabulary, but you also see the reason. And then here, let me jump to it right now. You can see here. Okay, so pie charts are used to depict the ratio, proportion, or percentage of data from a whole, all right? Line graphs are used to illustrate correlations, positive or negative, on interval scales, okay? So you're given this information. So you want to check that out, all right? Make sure that you use this correctly. You're sitting the academic IELTS. You can't just be writing a template that you saw on YouTube. You have to use good thinking, and you have to know the reason for pie charts and line graphs, because in university you need to know this. Nobody will teach you this, okay? All right, so again, that's on our website, aehelp.com, and that's why I'm always suggesting to you to click that big red button to join the premium package, because there's a lot of valuable information for you to save you band scores, okay? All right. So let's hop back to our example. Okay, so let's go back to what you were writing here. I think this was yours, Sanjay. So Sanjay says the 3 pie charts indicate the changes associated with the proportion of 5 book types, namely biography, travel, children's and adult fiction, and others, not over the course of 4 decades, but in 3 time periods, right? In 3 time periods spanning 40 years. Okay. So that would be clear if you wrote in 3 time periods spanning 4 decades. Notice that interesting use of the word spanning. Okay, spanning 4 decades. And then I would be specific here, Sanjay. So 1972, 1992, and 2012. Okay, now it's more accurate information. It's not misleading information. Okay, so if you're writing about pie charts like line graphs, it's misleading information. Why am I spending so much time telling you this? Because it is the most common mistake. I see it all the time. Like 50% of IELTS candidates write about pie charts like they're looking at a line graph. Okay, you're not looking at a line graph. If you were looking at a line graph, they'd be showing you a line graph of this information. Okay, don't make that mistake, right? Okay, quick way to save yourself band scores. So that's the introduction. All right, well, what's the overview? So remember I said task 1 has 4 different sections to it. It's an expository essay. The next section is an overview. Overview is this part of the question. It says, report the main features. Okay, report the main features is basically your overview. It's equal to the overview. Overview is the main features. Make comparisons where relevant is going to be the next part, as you'll soon discover. Okay, so the overview means the biggest difference that you can see. Okay, what's the biggest difference? So what do we notice? So when you're looking at the overview, you should be able to see it without going into detailed data. Okay, you should be able to see it just by kind of looking at the main pieces here. So here, you know, we've got this here, we've got this piece here, we've got that piece there, that piece, that piece. So we've got these kind of slices. And then here, look at this. So we've got, well, bam, big slice there, another slice there, a couple of smaller slices there. So I noticed something interesting about these 3 time periods right away when I look at it. So Mal says adult fiction took almost half of the pie in 2012. Yeah, Mal, that's one. So definitely one of the main features that I see, I agree with you, is that big change there. But there's something else that I see. So Nancy says, at first glance, it is clear that reading choices of people changed significantly with time, especially in the year 2012. Nancy, we don't know if it's the reading choices of people that changed, but definitely the types of books sold. So the percentage of the types of books sold at this shop changed, right? This isn't, remember, Nancy, remember the question, okay? This isn't people's reading choices. The question is books sold at a bookshop, okay? Books sold. It's not reading choices. We don't know if it's reading choices or not. In the academic IELTS students, the examiners are looking at the information that you're giving them, how accurate you are, okay? So you have to be accurate. Accuracy is very important, especially for those higher band scores. Okay, so be careful. So Nancy, maybe try to rewrite that, and instead of reading choices, think about the focus here, which is the books sold. Okay, those aren't necessarily the same. Maybe this bookshop wasn't able to purchase or import those books. Maybe people's choices didn't really change. It's just the types of books that they specialized in that changed, right? We don't know that. We don't have that information. So we have to be careful. World of business and statistics. All right. So definitely so the key feature that I notice when I'm looking at this, and your evaluation is important, is that in 1972, 1992, they're kind of the same. Maybe I'll do it this way, more mathematically accurate. They're kind of the same. So the proportions are relatively similar with some changes, but they're slight changes. And then here, it's different, right? Does everybody see that? So 1972 and 1992 are relatively the same. And in 2012, it's a fair bit different. Okay? So that's what I'm going to write for my overview. So immediately, it is noticeable that the percentage, or we can use proportion if I use percentage in my introduction, the proportion of books sold in the first two time periods is very similar, or are very proportions of books sold are very similar. But in 2012, there are significant changes, especially with adult fiction, travel, biography, and others. Okay. All right. And so, right, those are the ones. Children's kind of stays similar, but the others change quite a bit. We can see that there's quite a big percent change. So that would be my overview. Okay, stating to my reader that hey, we've got fairly similar book sales or proportions of books sold in 1970 to 1992, but then we've got quite a big difference in 2012, and there's a lot of different ways that we can say that. Okay, everybody, that makes sense? Yeah? Okay. Good. So Mal says yes. All right. So yeah, so really, be critical. User critical thinking. Okay. And then for the next step, so we're moving along nicely here. Okay. So introduction, paraphrase the question, giving some more details. B, overview, what we just did. Okay. Describe the main features. You should see this by looking at the form of the chart. And for high band scores, here's a good tip for you. For high band scores, think past most and least. Okay, so yeah, sometimes that's fine, the most, the biggest, the least, but try to be a little bit more, unique, a little bit more critical. So think past it. Too many times candidates, they're just like, the biggest change is in adult books, or the most is, or the least is. And it's like, is that the most interesting though? Like, is that the most noticeable? Sometimes there's more interesting facts that we can discover, like slight differences between the first two time periods and major differences between the last time period. Okay, does that make sense? So I'm giving you a lot of information here, a lot of tips in these live classes, and you might have to watch this video again to pick them all up, but these are important. Okay, so far I've told you don't write about pie charts like line graphs. Now I just told you don't just think about most and least. Okay, so don't sound or don't read like every other candidate. Okay, everybody thumbs up. Yeah, so not just most and least, not just biggest and smallest, but think more, think past simplicity like that. Okay, all right, and then C is the analysis or analyses. This is basically this part of the question where the question says make comparisons where relevant. Okay, Nancy says yes, perfect. So make comparisons where relevant. Okay, Sanjay says thumbs up, awesome. So that's what we want to do. We want to make comparisons where relevant. Okay, sure, all right. So let's do that. Okay, let's identify our points for comparison. Now, when you do, this is the main body paragraph, and this is, where you get into details. Okay, and so here in 1972, we can see that others made up 25% of the pie. Adult, children's, and biography each made up 20% of the pie. Okay, and then travel made up 15%. What's another way to say 25%? Okay, 25% is also known as 1/4. Okay, adult fiction, children's fiction, biography. Yeah, very good, Nancy. Quarter. 20% would be 1/5. Okay, or a fifth. All right. And then moving to 1992, our comparison here, others made up a fifth, adult fiction made up a quarter, right? Children's fiction, kind of the same. And then biography and travel, kind of the same, slight differences. Okay. So let's go logically here. Okay, I'm going to start with the biggest slice, others, here in 1972. Compare that to 1992. And then I'm going to combine these three into 1 point because they're all 20%. And then here, I'm going to compare it to the slight changes there. Okay, now I'm going to be careful here not to spend too much effort, time, not too many words on these comparisons because the biggest comparisons are happening here, and that's where I want to spend some more time. Okay, but I am going chronologically. So chronologically means according to time. I don't want to jump around all over the place because then it's going to get confusing for my reader. So it makes sense for me to go chronologically, describe 1972, then go to 1992, and then go to 2012. So follow time order, chronologically. Okay. All right, so I'm going to describe 1972 first with others, and then compare it to 1992. There are more ways to do this. So the way I'm doing this is one way to do this. You can do this in several different ways. Just make sure that you have good structure and good logic, okay? So it's not confusing for your reader, okay? All right, here we go. So next paragraph with my first point, others. So in 1972, other books, so other types of books made up a quarter of sales. So I don't talk about the pie, I talk about the sales here. Made up a quarter of sales, and this was followed by adult and children's fiction, as well as biographies, at a fifth each. Travel books had the lowest share at 15%. Okay. Now that describes for me 1972. Now I'm going to jump to 1992. This changed slightly 2 decades later, or 20 years later. Whereby, notice the use of this word, whereby. Whereby means specifically or in example, okay? Whereby other types of books made up a fifth of sales, and adult books made up a quarter. Okay, so that's kind of the key difference there. Now, instead of talking about, so you have to, be careful that you don't get lost in numbers and you don't report all the little tiny changes. So here, even though we see kind of travel increasing slightly, biography decreasing slightly, children's books increasing slightly, I'm not going to specify those in too much detail because I don't want to use too much time. And in the writing section, it's really important that you finish task 1 in 20 minutes and that you save 40 minutes for task 2, because task 2 is worth more. It's worth twice as many marks as task 1. So don't get lost in a lot of details, okay? So there were between 2 and 5% changes in sales for the other 3 genres, okay? There were 2 to 5% changes in sales with the other 3 genres. Okay, so again, I'm not going into too much detail here, right? Okay. Mal says, should we write 3 paragraphs? Yes, Mal, you should. In the IELTS, they really like, for some reason, they really like to see separate paragraphs for the introduction and the overview. In the real world, in college, university, no, your introduction and your overview are 1 paragraph, because an overview is part of the introduction, which to me makes sense, but for some very, very strange reason, that's still a mystery to me, and I'm sure to many other experts as well. The IELTS likes to see a separate introduction and a separate overview. I guess, we could argue it's a type of style of expository writing. So 3 paragraphs in this case, Mal, for this essay. Absolutely. Okay. All right, so there were 2% to 5% changes in sales with the other 3 genres. So I'm not going to start listing travel books. There were 2% more at 18%. It's too much detail. And if you get lost in percent numbers, then the essay starts to become unclear. Okay. So keep your thoughts simple. The idea of a good expository essay for task 1 is to take the data and create a simplified concept for your audience. Okay. So your goal for high band scores, okay, is interpretation. So in the analyses, choose 5 to 8 points for comparison and interpret the data in a clear and simple way for your audience. This is how you get high band scores. Okay, does that make sense, everyone? So you're interpreting data. You're not just simply reporting data. Okay, I'm going to reiterate that. You are interpreting data, not just reporting it. If you just report it, you can get a band 5 or a band 6. Will be harder to get up into that band 7 or 8 category. Okay. All right. So now let's make a comparison. And Sanantha, Nancy, Mal, keep writing. Okay. Just because I'm moving along and I'm explaining and comparing and writing doesn't mean you should stop. So I know you're listening to me. I know you're paying attention, and that's fantastic, all of our viewers. But make sure you keep writing as well. So as you listen, take a moment and keep writing. Okay? All right. So now I'm going to report this big difference between adult fiction in sales, of course, in 1992 and 2012. Okay? And I will report children's fiction, and I will report the big change in these two or these three as well. Okay. All right. Okay, so however, in 2012, there is a major jump in sales of adult fiction, which make up almost half of the books bought by customers at 45%, while children's fiction sales remained almost the same as in the previous reported periods at 1/4. Biography, travel, and other were close to half the proportion of sales in 1972 and 1992. Okay. So again, you can do this in many different ways. What's important is that you have this information. So if we look at others, right, we can see that we've got 20%. Here we have 12%. It's almost half, right? Travel, we've got 18%. We've got 10%, almost half, okay? Biography, we've got 8%, 15%, almost half, right? So each of those kind of became half, okay? So clever interpretation gets you those high band scores. Okay. in summary, right? So this is the summary and high band score. So if you're going for a band 9, okay, and this is specifically for those students who, you feel really confident in your English, you've got good typing speed or good writing speed, and you think, hey, I want to go for the highest score possible. Summary is a good idea. To go for a band 8 or 9, think about including a summary at the end of your analyses, which give a learned, visible fact about the information. Or we should say data, in the charts. Okay, so something that we can clearly see. Okay, all right. What can we clearly see? That fiction books are a key source of revenue in all 3 decades, especially in 2012. Okay, so in summary, the data reveals that fiction books are a significant portion of revenue for this bookstore, especially in 2012. Okay, so in 2012, fiction books, now that's combining adult and children's, makes up 70% of sales, and you can even do that if you're really clever, especially in 2012 when they total 70% of all sales. Okay, so again, we're doing a band 9 level example here. Keep that in mind, students. Now let's see how many words we have here altogether. This is 227 words. Okay, and that's not unusual for a band 9 essay. Okay, because it's 150 words minimum, but it's very, very difficult, almost impossible to get a band 9 score on a task 1 with just 150 words. Usually you have missing information. Okay, so here we go. Let's review this. These 3 pie charts illustrate the percentages of 5 genres of books, including adult and children's fiction, travel, biography, and other, sold in 1972, 1992, and 2012 at 2-decade intervals in a bookstore. Immediately, it is noticeable that the proportions of books sold in the first 2 time periods are very similar. But in 2012, there are significant changes, especially in adult fiction, travel, biography, and others. In 1972, other types of books made up a quarter of sales, and this was followed by adult and children's fiction, as well as biographies at a fifth each. Travel books had the lowest share at 15%. This changed slightly 20 years later, whereby other types of books made up a fifth of sales, and adult books made up a quarter. There were 2 to 5% changes in sales with the other 3 genres. However, in 2012, there is a major jump in sales of adult fiction, which made up almost half of the books bought by customers at 45%. While children's sales remained almost the same as in the previous reported periods at 1/4, biography, travel, and others were close to half the proportion of sales in 1972 and 1992. In summary, the data reveals that fiction books are a significant portion of revenue for this bookstore, especially in 2012, when they total 70% of all sales. All right. So that is it. Nancy's asking, can we make a different paragraph for this third pie chart? No, I wouldn't, Nancy, because it's still pie charts on book sales in this bookstore. So the information is still too similar to the whole concept. So it's a good question, Nancy, but the answer is no. Don't write a new paragraph here for the third pie chart because it's all related information. It's all 5 types of books at a bookstore sales percentages. It's all one paragraph. There's no major shift in the idea. Again, Nancy, just like I said before earlier in the class, the only time we usually make a new paragraph is when we have like a table combined with pie charts or a line graph combined with a table where you have related but different information. Okay. All right, well, Nancy, I'm super glad that I was able to help you out and give you some clear direction. All right. Okay, everybody, so that is what your Band 9 pie chart Task 1 expository essay looks like. And again, don't forget that you've got a lot of help for writing on the websites. aehelp.com for academic IELTS and gieltshelp.com for general IELTS. It's absolutely worth it to go to these websites and sign up for our premium IELTS package by clicking the big red buttons that are just right up there above my head. It's a one-time payment for lifetime access, and it's really worth your time and money to do it. General IELTS green background, again, click right there. Different Task 1, pay attention. And again, we are IDP partners, British Council partners. We work with them to help thousands of students succeed in their IELTS exams every single month. I will be back in about an hour, a little bit less, with a listening section practice. And again, for this listening, we will be using the audio CDs, the audio tracks from our website, from the interactive course. So get ahead, access your premium package, and have a look at the audio materials or have a listen. Students, that's it for this class for now. But again, as I said, I will be back shortly. And you can also check out the new video, the speaking video that we just released. It's about 16 minutes long. It's some good speaking practice for you while you wait for the next class. Get up, stretch your legs, have a glass of water, and hopefully I will see you back here in about an hour. And that will be an all chat class, I believe. So everybody can join the chat. Thank you, members, for your support, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Bye for now. I'm Adrian, signing out momentarily from Victoria, Canada.